If you want something that I am passionate about that no one else is, I've got those too. There's no molehill that I'm not willing to die on.
Okay, here we are, episode 3 of Surveyors Quest. I'm your host, Nick LaFond, with co-host Parker Zurbach. How you doing today, Parker?
I'm doing good. How about you, Nick?
Doing great. Super busy, hiring, trying to get work done.
Yep.
Trying to record YouTube videos at the same time. Today we have Mr. Kyle Brook. Kyle is PLS number 9686 in California and the founder of Contour Land Surveying out of Lotus, California. Thanks for joining us today, Kyle.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Very cool. I think the interesting story of the day is Kyle's journey and how he moved from the corporate surveying job to now running his own business and putting surveying projects that he's wanted to build out there into the ether for all of us to consume. So I think we can focus on those topics today, and maybe if we get a chance, we can talk about California YSN at the end.
Works for me. Got lots to say on all topics, so fire away.
You want to start it off, Parker?
Sure. Yeah. So Kyle, can you tell us about like how you went from maybe in your career from small business to corporate back to where you are now? Give us kind of the rundown there.
I got into surveying like many on accident, stumbled through the door, found out I really liked it, started learning a lot, eventually got my license relatively quickly. I think it was 7 years of experience, and I got my license, and pretty quickly after that realized that there are a lot of places that will hire you for your license and very little else, and that not necessarily everything that I was doing was what I would want to do with my license, and that licensure is commanded not only by the boards that govern us, but also the corporate structures and I guess really just financial structures that we live in, like capitalism. So I have to spend enough time on this project to get it to the point where it can be recorded with the county or something like that. But some of those projects I always wished I could spend a little bit more time on. Or, hey, maybe we could deep dive a little past where we had our budget on this. And those were some of the frustrations that I found before I went off and started my own company and started learning by doing, trial by fire and error.
Did you find those frustrations both in the small business and the corporate environments?
When I was in a smaller company, I probably learned the most. One of the things that I tell people now is like, if you can pick between smaller company and larger company, I'm going to pick smaller every time, not because anything in particular, except for I have the ability to do so many different things. And so when I was at the smaller company that I worked for, I was able to wear 12 different hats, which really set me up well for running my own business later. And when I would go and work for other larger companies, I was in charge of that one thing. And so I do think that a lot of the larger firms do tend to pigeonhole people more than they frankly deserve. People are capable of doing a ton of different things, and the more we can teach them, the better. So overall, I would say I like my time at the smaller company I worked for more than when I've tried out larger firms. But basically, once I got my license, I became unemployable. So wanted to do it my way.
Well, go into that a little bit. So what exactly, that's a interesting sentence there. What exactly made you unemployable because of licensure?
It's a danger giving a young person a license is someone like me. If you tell me, hey, this has to be done this way, I will ask why. And if there is no reason and it's just because we've always done it this way, then I will want there to be a good reason. Sometimes when I come up to a project, I'd say, I think it should be done this way. And if it's not going to be done this way, then I'm fine going elsewhere and doing my own thing or working somewhere else. So it just your license opens so many doors to you, right? Like you guys are licensed, you know how many calls you get or emails or people reaching out, trying to hire you places. And it might not be the best deal in the world, but it is an option. And those are options that are not on the table for people without their license in the same way.
Yeah, I felt the same way during that transition from tech to being licensed, where you have enough experience to have a strong opinion on how to do something. And if the way that it is told to you to be done doesn't jive with your worldview, it's difficult to get on board for that project because you already feel at a disadvantage. Like, I already don't think I'm doing the right thing, or maybe I don't want to be associated with doing it this way. But the trap, I think, is for younger people to make that decision too early, or they don't have all the information. Whereas the older guy, even though maybe there's a more efficient way to do it, the older guy might have a reason to do it that way that makes it the best option. But with limited experience, it's so hard to evaluate that. And if they're not willing to discuss it and explain that why, right, and give you really good reasons for why we're doing it this way. Well, I'm doing it this way because of this consideration or this constraint. That's what I had difficult with in that time of my career.
It's so common for managers or business owners to be, because oftentimes they build this entire organization from the ground up. It's their baby. They put their sweat and blood into it. And so then having somebody else come in and being able to relinquish a lot of the control there can be really difficult, not necessarily because the person is a control freak, but just because of the nature of how it goes. When you build this thing that you care so much about, it can be really hard to then delegate. And I can definitely, I sympathize with a lot of Kyle's sentiments there about, especially being able to be given the freedom when you're licensed to like make the mistakes but also get some form of guidance, but maybe not too much guidance. It's a hard balance to strike. And I've worked with people that I think struck the balance very well. My current employer is one of those, but I've also worked with people who I think could have done better in that regard, or at least in the communication of the why. And I totally agree with you.
Yeah, that's something that I found that the flexibility that I get from running my own business has been valuable to me. And when I was giving up on running my business for a brief time and I went out and tried to work for some other people, I kept being like, what do you mean I can't just take Thursday off? I have to take vacation hours. It's at the same time I would get a holiday and be like, what is this? I get paid to not do anything. So running your own business, it's terrible and fun all at the same time. And I end up at all these conferences I go to, talking to people who want to get their license and want to start their own business. And it is very much a excellent path to go down, but it is not easy, especially once you hit the level where you start to have employees and have other people that you are responsible for. That's a tough job.
Are you currently a one-man shop, Kyle, or do you have employees?
I technically have 0 employees. I do work with, I've got an administrative assistant who works part-time for me and handles some of my things, but he does that for some other people as well. So it's at 1099. But yeah, so currently I'm doing as much as I can to get 2 different types of businesses done at the same time. A lot and a little depending on the day.
It's a really smart strategy, what you're doing with that gentleman. I don't know if I can say his name. He's great. And he gets in there and does things like coding and integration and outreach. And as a founder, your biggest issue is time. You just don't have enough hours in the day to do the things that you want to do. So when you can find somebody like that who's willing to align with your vision and push that stuff forward, that's how you scale your output as an entrepreneur. And so I think I commend you on that. That's a great situation.
Yeah, when you find good people, you need to make sure that you do everything you can to not let them go, right? And find a way to work within their structure. And that's the thing that I found I can do as a small business is I am competitive not in the price I can pay people. I'm competitive in the flexibility that I put in their lives. And for young people, that's huge. And that means that I do tend to, if I were to hire again, I'd likely be hiring a younger person who's looking for that flexibility. And that also means that I might end up being essentially a farm team and training somebody only for them to go get that experience and go off on their own into some other space at some point. And, that's kind of the cycle we're in. And until there's more training materials and support materials for smaller businesses, I think that's how things will stay. I don't think we have a really better option.
So you've done a few other things. You tried running your own survey business for a while. had some employees, worked for some other companies, and now you're back doing the survey thing. And I'm guessing that's all you're doing, right?
No, I do survey work essentially part-time now. And then I do part-time survey test prep material. Didn't really actually ever have issues with employees as much as being an employer and all of the additional costs and admin work you take on doing that. But found that, okay, I can focus on surveying and then I can put more time into my survey projects if I have something else that is helping to support that. And that's what Survey Vital has become. And really more and more, it's going up from the surveying being up here to my test prep being there. So Survey Bible is a full test prep course for the FSPS and California specific right now, probably some other states as well. And then the PLSS exam that will be coming in 2027. It allows me to get people licensed. And that is something that when I was studying to get my license, I kept looking around being like, is this really all we have as an industry? There's nothing that is specifically targeting me to get my California license. There's only a few resources for the FS and PS, and some of them cost way too much and some of them aren't enough. So I eventually stumbled into making a practice test or practice question here and there, or release free daily practice exam or practice questions for people. And then now I've got 3 exams that I sell and ridiculously large question bank and courses built around that. Just kind of spiraled into something that I didn't realize it would become, but it's been pretty incredibly gratifying.
And Kyle, have you done it all yourself? All the question writing and the development?
Yeah. So it started out a day at a time where I was just building up an email list and sending them a question a day. And by the time I got through a year of that, I looked around and said, wow, I have, several hundred questions, and I'm going to take those and compile them into a test. And then as I started realizing, okay, I should make an FS exam. And then I would put a little bit more time in, and eventually I built up now this entire thing myself, writing all the FS, PS, and California specific exams. I might be looking to get somebody else to help me out with some of the other state specific exams, just because I don't know if I'd be able to sit for those exams. It depends on reciprocity for a state. And also I was not educated in survey. I was a double major in archaeology and geography, GIS, which I still think is more valuable than any of the FS prep that I've ever had, but
Okay.
but it counted for nothing. And most people want that surveying degree, and I just didn't want to go to Fresno.
Is that I'm just curious now, is Fresno the only place in California that offers like a full survey degree?
It's the only 4-year. There's a new one that's popping up near Sacramento. It might be Sac City College. I'm not sure. There are a bunch of smaller courses that are now working through that Abbott accredited process. I've learned way too much about this through the people I know who are trying to get their license, and I'm trying to help them. But yeah, Fresno is the only 4-year, but there are a lot of other smaller programs that will basically get you where you go.
Okay. That's shocking to me that California only has one. Like Indiana only has a 4-year program, but that's, it's Indiana. It's not that big of a state, but California, I can't believe that. Come on, California. What are you doing? Yeah.
With Cal Poly Pomona, they have an interesting program there. Kyle said that with the 4-year, but I think that the reason that one's interesting is because of the engineering side of it. And talking to a lot of kids going through that program, they're all, maybe I want to get a PE and an LS.
So I spoke at the Cal Poly Pomona conference, and they gave me this awesome water bottle, and super, super passionate kids. They've been showing up to a lot of the CAYSN events in their area, which has been really cool to see. And yeah, they've got a really good program. I don't know how that program is structured. I've never delved that deeply into it, but there's all sorts of places like that, which have some sort of path, but it is not the 4-year geomatics degree. And yeah, California is a massive state. For us to only have that one but it also opens up a path that I took, which was no actual experience and no education in survey, just the experience route, which for somebody coming out of high school, like that is huge. If you don't know where to go, you don't know what you want to do. I could have been they call them shovel buns, where you're digging holes I was actually living up in Oregon at the time, digging holes in the Washington woods for $15 an hour or something like that. And I ended up not doing that and falling to surveying instead. And without any experience, now I'm licensed and able to run my own business and kind of live my life the way I want. I'm always very appreciative to the surveying industry, California setup for that.
So you're taking all this time away from surveying to do projects like Survey Bible. And I know that you're active with the California Young Surveyors Network and have built a hub around that idea for connecting directors in your different regions and having meetings, having a community where everybody can get together. How do you see this paying off in the end?
I'd actually say it's probably paid off for me already in terms of being able to help people get their license. The goalposts have shifted for me where now I'm like, I want to make this bigger. I want to make it better. I want more resources. I want all of the resources in the hands of people. The way I justify it to keep putting effort towards it is sometimes I'm building these tools for myself. So Survey Bible is absolutely test prep material, but a lot of the things on there are not. They're things that help me or things that I want to see when I'm doing a job. So I was working on a vicinity map and I was bored out of my mind because vicinity maps are very boring to draft. I don't know how you guys draft them, but I take a Google Maps snip, just put it on the screen and draft over it. It takes forever for how it's useful information, but it's not precise drafting. So I had, hey, let's build a generator. And you can go on to Survey Bible and go to the tools and go to vicinity map generator and clip a section on the screen and it will spit that out in a DXF. And then you don't have to label as many lines. And that's something that drives a little bit of traffic to the site and hopefully has somebody who's experienced say, hey, you should check out Survey Bible when you need to buy a practice test exam. And that's what helps me pay for my passion projects. My end goal, the goalposts now are two things. I want to see a noticeable uptick from my efforts in the number of licensed people who are passing. So I want to see the pass rate actually increase because of my efforts, which is a big goal. And then I also want to be able to make enough money off of that to have my projects be less profitable and to spend the amount of time that I think some of these projects deserve, regardless of maybe how much budget there was built towards it.
What do you think, Kyle? This is just more of a general question as regards the survey industry and getting people interested. But what do you think is the top priority that we can do as an industry in getting young people, but anybody interested?
Pay them more money. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to say that it's a zero-sum game, right? I like to say that, hey, there are a lot of things we can do. I also think that there are not a lot of kids who actually want to be attorneys when they grow up. And I think not as many of those doctors started out wanting to be a doctor for the love of, medicine, as much as, hey, I know my parents will be proud of me if I pursue this route because they know it's a good, stable, well-paying job. And I can come out of college and start making good money. We have an opportunity as surveyors if we're willing to pay people at all levels. And so my easy answer, for most things like that is if we can find a way to pay people more money collectively, we will have a lot easier time getting people in the door and getting people to step away from a job that they might be at the ceiling at into an industry that will treat them well going forward. Engineers I love an engineer who wants to become a surveyor. I say, go for it. At the same time, I don't like focusing on STEM kids because those kids have a path forward. I like to say, if we can find geography majors like me, people who studied anthropology, history, if you are that person in college or in high school who's pursuing something that is not something that your parents are going to say, wow, what are you going to do with that job? Then surveying is an excellent path because it checks so many of those boxes. I'm in DC right now. And while I was here, I went to the Library of Congress and I became a reader, just had to go in and get into my ID. And yesterday, I touched documents with my bare hands that were older than the state of California. And to me, that's awesome. I don't know if that's awesome to every engineer. So how do we get more historians? How do we get more archaeology nerds. Like, how do we get those kids who we're kind of not focusing on into the industry? Money helps, but so does just outreach in other directions besides just STEM.
In that vein of people that were not classically trained in surveying, I'm seeing a lot of energy right now around the FS online, on the Facebook, on the LinkedIn. People are constantly taking this test. Your name is coming up a lot lately, right? The question's always, okay, whose test prep do I need? Do I need Tony Nettleman's? Do I need Dane Corville's? Do I need Kyle's? Do I need all three of them? Do I need the calculator? Does it need to be programmed? And with young people, I can help answer a lot of those questions. The one thing that I struggle with is, okay, yeah, but you also need to know math. You need to be able to do trigonometry and solve a quadratic equation and that sort of thing. What do you think the way is to bridge the gap on those other verticals that weren't STEM and engineering?
Math is important to surveyors, but it's important to understand how math works. And it's less important today, like, to be able to hand calculate a curve than ever. If you are spending time at your professional job as a professional surveyor and you are hand calculating curves, I do not want to work with you because you are not efficiently using the tools.
Yes.
We give everybody these awesome tools and then we restrict them to this old calculator that's out of date and is a pain in the ass to program because we want our exam security. And while that's well and good, that's not the real world. And I say this a lot with my test prep material. Like, you have to remove yourself from the real world because we are trying to test people on their minimal competency. And we are doing that through a very broken system, which is called a multiple choice exam. So how do I, in a 6-hour, 3-hour window, whatever test you're sitting for, make you check the right boxes? I have to give you very broad questions that do not prove to me that you are a good surveyor. The right answer to every question that I write is actually go get more information. Spend more time. That's not the right answer when you're actually in the exam. You shouldn't, there's no way to go get more information. You're given a little window to look through. Or I think it was Dave Woolley who says you're at 30,000 feet. You cannot pick out details when they don't exist in these test world scenarios. In regard to what test prep to choose, obviously mine only. No, it's not a zero-sum game. I focus on providing a ton of questions for people because for me, I learned best by taking practice exams. I wasn't great at reading a book cover to cover. If you're somebody who can read Brown's cover to cover, great. I'm proud of you, but I cannot do that. I learn in little sections, learn in little snippets. So I just tried to put as much material in as I can in terms of, the basics you need to understand the answers. Why the answer is correct is another important thing that drove me crazy when I was studying. You get, which answer is it? Oh, it's B. And you go, why? And they go, because. I tried to build out a very robust answer of why that B is correct on every single question I write. You could take every single resource available and one of them will be perfect for you. So yeah, I know a lot of people say really good stuff about Dane stuff for the FS exam. I've never used it myself. I will tell you, I think he's maybe the nicest guy in survey, like super nice dude. But yeah, more the merrier when you're coming to study. And the FS is a mile wide and an inch deep. It will not go into depth on any topic, but you need to know so many things. So the more practice problems, the better.
How do you think, you discussed like the multiple choice format of the exams? Do you think there is a better format that we could use that would practically work?
In my opinion, there's a better format. Could we use it? No. Have we used it before? Yes. It's called open answer, right? Explain your reasoning, right? That big field. And then you're writing out, I would do this and this because of this. And I thought about this while I was doing it. And that way individual graders are going through, oh, wow. Yeah, he did think about that. And this is why he took, like, the same thing that I do when I create a survey narrative would be a great thing to test somebody on, right? Here's the evidence. What would you do? And there might be 3 right answers, but as long as you explain your reasoning well and show them why you picked what you did and how you weighed that evidence, that's an excellent surveyor. But that same person might really struggle with being like, it has to be B because of these 3 things. The open-ended answer would be great, but it's like the grading time and the subjective nature of how you grade that makes it an impossible format. Nobody's maybe more of a thorn in the side of NCES or state boards than I am, but I do understand the pickle they are in.
Okay, I got it. Here's what we do. NCEES doubles the price of their exam, and we go to all open-ended answer, and they just use AI to grade it all.
Yeah. I would argue vehemently against it because I would be like, NCES, you don't need more surveyors' money. How about NCES? I never say NCEES. I don't know why, but NCES, if you double the price of the engineering exam, and then maybe I'd be on board. But don't raise surveyors' fees. We need to give people a path into the industry without it being too expensive for them.
I think they'd either have to raise the price, or it would take you a year to get your results back. Something. There's a trade-off there, and unfortunately, there's a trade-off. Because I totally agree, Kyle. Like open format. The more like you talk about just like the conventional way that we educate, just in general, versus the classical way that that a lot of education used to go on. It used to be much more open-ended answers. But the problem there is there was a lot less people getting educated. So you could actually use resources like very small classroom size or literally personal tutoring. And that also reflects into how we do exams as well. And when you have as many people getting educated as we do today, you have to turn it into an industry, unfortunately. And that's a great travesty. And I agree. I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah. We're in a tight spot, right? Like the answer for all of it is just money. And surveyors, the only way you could solve it is if all surveyors tomorrow tripled their prices. It's not price fixing. We're just tripling whatever we have today. That would be a great way to get enough money to do everything. Will it happen? Yeah, probably not. There's some game theory involved there that probably will throw it off the rails, but the more we can fund educating our prospective licensees, and the more we can work on making sure we are testing to the best of our ability, I'm for it, but that's expensive.
I want to know your guys' thoughts on this, because oftentimes when we're presented with like present conundrums of the modern world, I like to go back and try to figure out what people did historically and see if there's an answer there. Do you guys know, or have you done any research into like how did surveyors in the past, like I'm not talking 60s, 70s, even 50s or 40s. I'm talking like 1910, 1890, when you see surveyors walking around in suits. Now, granted, everybody was walking around a lot more fancy back then, but it seems to me like surveyors were much more respected in the early 1900s and the mid to late 1800s. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's my impression. And I want to know, like, what did surveyors do then to gain that kind of reputation? And how can we emulate that in our present day? Any thoughts on that?
I personally am always very hesitant to believe that things in the past were overly different than they are today. It's saying that, oh, kids these days don't work as hard as me when I was a kid. And I think that never actually holds up once you start to dive into the data or anything like that. I don't know if surveyors are more professional or thought of as more professional at that time. I can tell you from looking at many of their maps that they have just the same amount of variation in quality, right? Because they left this record behind. I look at some surveyors and I go, this guy really didn't do a good job very often, right? And it depends what you think professionalism is, to a whole nother question. But I don't know if I would say that I've seen enough to think that surveyors were held in higher regard at another point. And unfortunately, I come back to the same points again, which is if every surveyor showed up to their job and they were in a perfectly squeaky clean truck that had everything they needed in it, and they had a brand new pair of shoes and some sort of expensive vest and everything else on, I think they might, if every single surveyor was at that level, then you might see their profession be held in higher regard. Because why do we hold an attorney in higher regard today than we did? Typically, attorneys actually weren't, as far as I know, held in that high regard in the past. I think they managed to elevate their profession through the way they changed how they bill. All the time I see surveyors say, oh, we need to talk to the civils because the civils are doing a good job and they know this and that. And I say, the civils are in the race to the bottom just like we are. If you want to take an industry that surveyors are very similar to, that has done an excellent job lifting their profession. Look at attorneys. Go to a bar association and talk to attorneys about how much they're making charging hourly. Attorneys are now starting to talk about changing their pay structures openly with each other to not be hourly because of the advent of AI. So they're talking about how AI is changing their industry and they need to get ahead of it so they can keep charging high rates. I've never heard a surveyor talk about it. We are not even thinking about it. And if you did, somebody would accuse you of price fixing. So
That's what people always say. It's we can't touch that with a 10-foot pole because it's price fixing. And you made a qualification earlier that was interesting. What about price fixing? And maybe you can remind me of what that was.
don't tell me how much you charge. I do not care. Just triple it.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't have to, as an industry, say triple it. Just increase your prices. That hourly rate you charge is not enough. I guarantee it, because if it was enough, we'd have more people in this industry. And that's why I've gotten all of that. I try to talk to people about these things. Is the more that idea can be planted in younger people's minds. Hey, once you get your license, you get to pick what you charge people for your time. You get to set what you value yourself as a profession. If we start there, we're going to see that this industry grow. The rising tide, right? It's going to lift all boats. So that's, I think, a great place to start is with young people saying, hey, how much do you actually value yourself? To explain what a 3-time multiplier is, like you look at corporate structures, that's one thing they do very well is they know how much to pay somebody versus how much the overhead is for it. So I'm not saying to track your, I forget what it's called in the corporate world, but something about the rate at which you are getting your billable time in. But at the same time, like if you are proving you are worth a value, if you're charging out for that value, it's a really good point for us all to make more as an industry and be able to bring new, really smart people into the industry as they see, hey, I can be successful and I can go outside sometimes and I can solve puzzles for a living. What more could I want?
And you're right.
I think utilization was the word you were looking for.
Yeah, utilization rates. Oh man, I had a good one. For my time in the corporate world, but I don't track that anymore.
I'll wait till private equity gets a hold of it, and then everybody will get to experience what it's like to have to hit those utilization numbers and why your time clicking on survey LinkedIn doesn't count towards your paycheck. I got a few points I could hit on that one, Parker, about the changing of respect for surveyors. Firstly, though, I live by the idea that people treat you how you teach them to treat you or how you allow them to treat you. So when you're hiring an attorney, they don't come out and they say, well, it's going to cost you this much. The first thing they say is, give me a $2,000 retainer, a $4,000 retainer, sign my professional agreement so that we can work together. I'm going to check for conflicts of interest. And then most likely I'll do your project on an hourly rate. And you're going to get billed for the calls, the emails, the research, all this stuff that I think a lot of surveyors neglect to charge for. So you build that fee into your proposal and you plan for it. But, if you're going over that, are you actively tracking how much time you're spending? Are you able to bill all that time? Or do you get to the end of the project and go, we're over budget on that? Tell accounting to write off that last portion, or do I have the huevos to go back to the client and say, hey, I need more money because we spent this time here and here? So I definitely see a difference in how billing works in those professions. And then there's also the professionalism, right? It's the surveyor not answering his phone, not getting back to the emails in a timely manner, saying, hey, I'm booked out 3 months and it's going to be super expensive if you want to do it. Do you want to get on the list? Just the way that we approach the contracts, I think, if I'm guessing, most surveyors aren't as professional as attorneys are and how they go about that. But as far as the decline or the difference in surveying respect, I have to imagine that when we came out here in the 1870s and decided we have all this new land, we're going to dispose of this federal land to the public. So we need to survey it. We need to know where it is and how much it is, how much we have, and be able to, sell off the south half of Section 35 to Joe. When we're on that pioneering journey and we're laying that out for that important reason or that important purpose to then get it into the hands of individuals, that's a very important task. But Since then, we've subdivided everything. And, we talked about in the last episode, people move into a house in a subdivision. They might go their entire life without ever interacting with the surveyor or hiring a surveyor because they don't have the need for it. So that visibility in our function in society, I think, has changed a bit. Like, we still do construction staking. You still see the guy taking pictures with the camera on the side of the road. So they know it from that aspect, but I think on the whole, they have zero clue what we do as a profession. Like, what are we doing in the office? And like, where is the value that we're bringing to their situation? We have to do a better job at explaining that to our clients, especially up front.
Yeah. What do you guys think about, this is something that I've been doing more recently, is even on smaller surveys, residential lot surveys, even like giving the client a price breakdown so that they know what all goes into it and why it costs the price that it does. Now, if they say, well, that's too expensive, at least they know why. They're not just looking at a number on a piece of paper. They can actually see the time and the effort that goes into it then. And also like the billable rates that are there to operate a company. What do you guys think about that?
I do that on every single project. There's an admin time. I'll even add the time to write a proposal while I'm giving them an initial estimate. Everything has an hourly breakdown. There's a little bit of, sometimes someone will come back to me and say, hey, what's CAD? Right. And so there's a little bit of work to explain better what each process is and why it's needed. But yeah, I've done that on every single project because I work for mainly residential clients, and it works well enough. I don't win every project, but I don't want to win every project because the person who does is billing too low. I've been trying to go to just giving them that estimate and then charging it as a fixed fee. But charging fixed fee only works if you are a pessimist, and I am optimistic with my time. And so frequently I find that I have, thought it's going to take a little less time than it did.
Okay.
But
Very cool. I'm the same way, Parker. I do it the same way as Kyle. I break all that out with a hourly rate. Let's close with a rapid fire question. How about for all three of us? You guys can start. Maybe Parker can start. What's the most underrated skill in surveying?
Man, you're going to have to cut that out. I got to think about that. Go on to Kyle first. Underrated. Okay.
Think about it.
critical
Think about
thinking.
You think that's underrated? I don't know.
You think people rate it highly enough? I guess
I think so. I think surveyors rate it highly. Are we talking about the general public?
Yeah.
I don't know.
say it's the most underutilized and the hardest to test for, maybe.
For sure. Yes. Yeah, I don't know, Nick. I got to think about that more, honestly.
I should have prepped that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to wrap it up then, Kyle, what if I was a new survey tech wanting to get licensed, what should I know about Survey Bible?
It's more than test prep. It is eventually going to be all things survey resources. At least that's the hope. Right now, it's mainly California focused for resources at large. But for somebody new to the industry, is Survey Bible should be a way for you to study smart and go through each step of the process with a PLS, being your guide through basically the remote system I have built. Hopefully it's your stop to finish or start to finish one stop for all things to get your license and get your foot in the door to this.
Very
Awesome.
cool. I'm excited to see the full blossoming of it.
Oh, vicinity map generator. Use it right now. Thing is awesome.
I'm
will.
texting my team a link to it as soon as we get off here.
More vicinity maps on record to survey. That's what I want to see Californians.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining in for episode number 3. Again, Kyle's got Survey Bible at surveybible.com. Isn't that right?
Yep.
Surveybible.com. Go check it out. And how about a plug for YSN?
Yeah. If you're in any state at all, the Young Surveyors Network is growing in your area most likely, or you could be the one to grow it. If you're in California, it's growing very rapidly, and we are having meetings really across the state. I am here through the YSN, and it's been an awesome opportunity for me to meet a ton of young surveyors and get them more involved in the industry. YSN, the idea is the more people you know, the better off you'll be for your career. And I have found that to be very much the case. I don't actually like networking that much. It's a little bit exhausting, but there are things that are incredibly valuable that only come through that process. Last week, I reached out to 3 different people and asked for an expert to give me some advice on a topic. And if I didn't have the network that I've been able to build, I wouldn't have that ability to get the answer right. And so that is there for anybody in the California Young Surveyors Network. It's an opportunity to build your network connections and really get yourself answers to hard problems.
100%. And that is at caysn.org.
That's correct.
Awesome. Parker, see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you
Thanks,
later, Kyle.
Kyle.
Bye-bye.